Please support our Dower projects at patreon.com. Remember to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to be notified when a new video is released, ring that bell.
Ring, ding, 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 ding. Wow, that's a big pickle.
Actually, it's a English cucumber. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you. Before I get into things, if you haven't figured it out, we're talking about sexual innuendos. And for those people who get really technical out there, yes, I know a pickle and a cucumber are very similar. Well, not similar, they're the same thing. But the difference is that a cucumber is the plant and a pickle is short for pickled cucumber, right? So just for the technical people out there, pickling is a process, and so it's just part of the fun, right? Anyway, a sister had asked about this question as a teacher, and she as a teacher asking me how to, especially with the boys. Now, sexual innuendos are fun and entertaining, but there is a problem. I mean, obviously, it's very simple to know the position of the Prophet ﷺ, which was that we should never get into lewd types of conversation. And when we're with friends, boys with boys, girls with girls, I mean, they talk and they behave. Boys and girls, when they're mixed, act completely different than boys and boys and girls and girls. No matter what studies they do, whatever, there's always a different type of behavior. Now, I'm not saying that girls don't do this kind of stuff as well, but again, I can only speak from my own experience dealing with the male aspect of it. Now, it seems fun and humorous at the time, but there are consequences to everything that we do. And I'll give you an example. So my wife and I, when we actually bought this cucumber yesterday, I was at the grocery store, but I also bought something else. And psychologically, when we're bombarded by images and topics and reading articles and books, and there's always focused on sexuality, it influences us. So I'm a very comfortable, outgoing person. I have no problem buying male and female hygiene products and so on. But so I went and I placed this down next to these on the counter. And then I looked at my wife and I looked back, and it just felt wrong. It just felt wrong. So I took the cucumbers and moved them over on the till and put something else in place. And then I realized afterwards, which was kind of fitting, because I think maybe part of it was because I had this video on my mind. I didn't get to do it, unfortunately, last week, so we're a little bit behind. But I realized at that time that the psychological impact of things that we do and say, and it was just it's just a cucumber. And as the example at the beginning, it can be taken totally inappropriately, and you can see how it affects us in other parts of our life. And that's where I'm really going to focus, because there is an authentic hadith, and I think it's in Bukhari, and it might be in Muslim as well, where the Prophet was known to not use any kind of lewd language, to talk about sexuality in a derogatory way, to use foul language, especially in terms of this topic. And especially, he would never, ever talk about intimacy with his wife or about other women in an inappropriate way. And that's where the biggest problem is. And so, yes, to the young brothers out there, you can hear the stuff, but does it sink in? That's the challenge. And my advice is, and I'm going to take I don't know if it's a unique approach to it, but I mean, Allah knows. But my thinking with this topic is that, excuse me, I'm a little dry here. Bismillah. My thinking is that one day you young brothers out there are going to want to get married. And people talk. We're not supposed to talk, right? This is going to touch on a whole bunch of things here, but we're not supposed to talk in a community. The reality is, however, that people talk. So keep in mind, everything that you do, not only does it get recorded in your book of deeds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it gets recorded within society. People remember the things that we do. So if you are a young brother and you were constantly joking with your friends. And on the surface, you may be laughing and joking, but you never know that inside one of your closest friends may be saying, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with what he's saying, but I don't know how to approach him. He's my best friend, and I don't know what to say to him, but how do I teach him this stuff? And then one day, you grow up a few years later, and your best friend has a young, attractive sister that you see to be very active in the community, and you've grown up, and you've gotten rid of this behavior, this sexual innuendo, and the derogatory statements you made about women. And when it comes time to look for a wife, for example, and you go to your best friend and say, oh yeah, it's this, is your sister looking to get married, and the brother kind of looks at you, but he always has in the back of his mind what you're like in private, right? The way you've been and the way you behave. And he's like, yeah, I'll ask my sister. But in the back of his mind, he's going, you know what? He's my friend and all, but I don't think he's fit for my sister, right? Like, this is just one example, one possibility of what you're setting yourself up for, right? It's just one scenario. And this is how I think it should, you got to think of these things. There's always an impact with everything that you do. So sexual innuendos, sorry, I should have done this first, but a sexual innuendo is basically, if you caught the idea at the beginning, is that it's something that can be taken out of context. It could be a very simple statement, not intended to be sexual in nature, but comes across this way. There's phrases and expressions that are said, and they're in cartoons, and they're in movies, and they're on television. People, politicians, everybody says something, and somebody in the crowd could just be like, right? But I think part of the problem is, as I was saying, is that we are so bombarded with this idea that this is humorous, that when we start thinking constantly in a sexual manner, this is the impact that it has on us. That something as simple as, hey, that's a nice cucumber. Can I have a bite of your cucumber? Right? Well, let's say we had done that at the beginning, right? Like, if you're not seeing the cucumber, like, it was very easy to set up the whole idea of it and to make it seem sexual. But the reality is it was just a cucumber. But because you don't have all the information and your mind starts to play games, right? And this is what happens. And so you can make mistakes. You can take things inappropriately. We look at this situation today. You hear about it all through the entertainment industry, for example. How many things now? Now everybody's on edge about saying anything that could be perceived as sexual. You could say something completely benign and be accused of being somebody who's sexually harassing somebody else. And these are the types of side effects that happen from this constant. Sexual innuendos have been in the movie and entertainment industry since film existed, right? Little offhand comments, posters, people have writing for centuries and drawing things and putting sexual messages in things. It's all there throughout history. So basically, the intention is you say something. When it's a deliberate innuendo, too, sometimes you have the accidental ones, right? A lot of times they're just accidental. But then you have people where they deliberately say things in a way, in a certain context, to allude to something else, right? And so here, we'll just pull up a quick definition of sexual innuendo. Innuendo. It's kind of a weird word to spell. innuendo, sexual innuendo. But innuendo in general, just the basics. So let's say Wikipedia says, an innuendo is a hint, an insinuation, or information about a person or thing, especially of a denigrating or derogatory nature. It can also be a remark or question, typically disparaging, also called insinuation, that works obliquely by allusion, not illusion, allusion. In the latter sense, the intention is often to insult or accuse someone in such a way that one's words taken literally are innocent, right? So this is the kind of the basic general, and as you've heard, it's generally used in a way to make something sound bad and denigrating. So you make a certain particular innuendo towards an individual, you're doing it to say something harmful and derogatory and to insulting, so denigrating. And in Islam, we're not supposed to do this. We're supposed to avoid anything that we can. Accidentally, we do certain things, but to deliberately do it. So a lot of people will deliberately say things in a way that allude to something else like this. And now the term sexual innuendo has acquired a specific meaning, naming that of a risqué double entendre is by playing on a possible sexual interpretation or an otherwise innocent uttering. For example, we need to go deeper can be seen as either a request for further inquiry or a request to go deeper into got to the word intimate and I got all flustered. Into an intimate part. Okay, does that make sense? So a sexual innuendo is you're making a reference. So, I don't want to go into stuff outside because you can get quite lewd with these. It's very easy. I grew up in a non-Muslim environment, so this was totally acceptable. And this is part of the problem. The ideas of, especially in Western culture, ideas of freedom of speech. And it's all good if it's funny, right? But the Prophet warned us about humor and the lines of humor, right? There's a certain boundary for everything. The reason is because something always happens. So there's certain types of behavior and humor that will be kind of universally accepted that are, when you're making jokes about being a parent or, certain workplace kind of office stereotypes and things like that, when they're just general type things that anybody, no matter what culture you can go to, people can associate with, the challenges of being a parent. So the humor can be kind of universal, and it's not derogatory, and it's not insulting, and it's not lewd, right? So, but then when it comes to other things, you can cross lines very quickly. And I remember as a young lad growing up, I'm not good with accents, but there was things that could not be said on television, and it's changed so dramatically in such a short period of time that the things that are being said, cartoons. When I was doing research for this video, I was shocked at how many things and how many inappropriate things are placed in movies, and it's accidental or it's deliberate. Some of them are deliberate, right? Because some of the jokes are, there's a famous one in Toy Story where Buzz Lightyear gets very excited and his wings pop up. He goes, bing, right? When he's looking at Jessie. And this is a clear, deliberate, hey, this is for the parents, right? It's a kid's movie, but we know parents are going to be sitting in the audience. So let's keep the parents entertained at the same time, right? And it's a challenge because where do we draw the line between what's acceptable and what's not acceptable? And the biggest part is, as I was saying before about the scenario, we do not know the consequences of our actions. And we may wake up one day and realize, man, I wish I hadn't said that. I really wish. For all you know, you could be saying something about a young sister that you're joking. It's very common for young brothers to joke about girls, especially ones that they like. And she might be just around the corner and she can hear you and you don't realize this and you're saying stuff and that's it. Maybe she liked you too. And maybe that there was a possibility that in a couple of years when you're a little bit older and you go, you get to that point where you want to get married, you may have had a good partner there. But you've destroyed it just because you're all for the sake of humor, right? So I don't know what else to say in terms of how the young brother should deal with this. But I mean, that to me, that's what it really is. I mean, if you're not connecting with the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you, you never know who's watching you here. If that helps. I mean, obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always the first concern. But again, I like to take an approach, a practical approach, where we try to balance out where we're supposed to be. That's where we want to be as Muslims. We always want to believe or to recognize that first, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching and he's the one recording this. And then we go down the process to, people and to our friends and families and so on. Excuse me again. But from a practical standpoint, you got to recognize that other people will notice, other people are going to remember. And I wish it was that simple that when you tell somebody something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we were all at that level, like some of the greatest of the Sahaba, that when you tell them something, it's like, bam, they're right on it. But that's just not how we work. So we sometimes need those extra pushes and those extra examples. So, inshallah, this is helpful. It was a little bit difficult coming up with this issue because we all want to laugh. We all want to have a good time. And sometimes we forget where to draw the line. I noticed for a long time, I watched, like anybody else, I love stand-up comics and a lot of people. And I watched some people that I had really admired and really considered to be great comics when I was a kid. And then I had watched them when I got a little bit older. And I had watched a couple as well after, and maybe that's just the transition, growing up, changing. What you find humorous in when you're young is it will generally, I mean, if you truly are seeking truth and really trying to be a better person, you will wake up one day and you go, subhanallah, what am I listening to? Who is this guy? There's some individuals that I listen to, and I heard them recently. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that I considered this guy to be funny, or this person to be funny. And I've noticed that with some comics and things nowadays, that they're pushing the line so far. I'm just like, for me personally, I mean, there's an easy way for me to deal with this stuff. I go on to like sites like Internet Movie Database, and I check out the ratings. I check out the parenting guide, and it gives you kind of a breakdown. Before you even watch it, it tells you can go to the parental guide, and it says, okay, this guy curses and swears at this point, and there's nudity here, and then right away, look at, what, this is not something that I'm going to benefit from. I may laugh, I may find it humorous, but in the long run, what price am I going to pay? And as I said before, with the whole example of the condoms, if people didn't catch what these are, I should have mentioned it. Lifestyles lubricated. That's going to be another topic, inshallah. Contraceptives. Yes, I still buy condoms, and there's reasons for that, and they're very important reasons to know. Especially for young married couples. Really, there's a lot of things. You get married, you get excited, and there's a lot of things that from a health standpoint that we should be aware of. So maybe maybe that will be the next topic. I don't know. But anyway, something I forgot to do also, since we're coming to a closure here, is please help to support what I'm doing here. Inshallah, this was a little more creative in a sense, and inshallah, we're going to continue to do this. So go to patreon.com/GaryTheRock. It's crowdfunding. Really, really could use your support. I'm making it kind of a personal challenge I see some Islamophobes out there, and they're getting people, and I'm shocked at how much money their people are supporting them with to be able to put out certain very anti-Islam messages. So I'm hoping that through this process that I can get some people in the community to help me out so that I can continue to grow and just be more creative, but do it in a halal way. Do it from the Muslim perspective as best we can, and to make it practical and something that we can use. I don't know of anybody else that's really doing this, and I hope that it's beneficial. And any of the mistakes that happen come from me, and anything that's good and beneficial comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember, boys, young men, many things. There's if we're not conditioned with all of these videos and movies about sexuality, that incident that I had at the grocery store buying condoms and cucumbers next to each other would not have even crossed my mind. But because I've been so conditioned for decades about sexuality, you just start to think in inappropriate ways, and it's a challenge. So one of the greatest ways to reduce this is be careful what you watch, be careful what you listen to, be careful who you spend time with. As unfortunate as it is, sometimes we just say, look at this brother or this sister, whoever, the girls and the boys hanging out together, whatever the situation. And I understand that women, as stereotypical as it can be, women can be just as bad or worse as men, from what I hear. But we'll leave that for another time. Maybe I'll talk to my wife and get her as a co-counsel for this type of stuff, and she can kind of advise me on the sister side of things. But so anyway, inshallah, this was beneficial. Sorry for the delay. I just wanted to be more creative with this one, and I had to plan it out. So yeah, I'm a week behind, and just be safe. And a lot of stuff's going on in the world, and I'm doing other videos about that type of news and politics. So inshallah, next week we'll continue with the series. Let's talk. I don't even know what series I'm doing. Subhanallah. Let's talk about sex. Yes, that's what I was doing. Oh, subhanallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please support our Dawah projects at patreon.com. Remember to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to be notified when a new video is released, ring that bell.
Ring, ding, 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 ding. Wow, that's a big pickle.
Okay, try it again. Just, okay. Wait. Let me get. Once I'm serious. Oh! What would do?